Hi, how's it going? Good.
My name is Noah. I'm with Team 8701 Graffiti, and I'm with.
Hi, I'm Renee Becker-Blau. I'm president of First Wisconsin and longtime First alumni from Team 1675 and some other stuff, but there we go. All right, and so, seriously. Oh, there. Oh, oh.
All right.
So close. Advance. Thank you.
Okay. So on the board right now are some figures from the first longitudinal study, and basically what they say is that first works. It gets all of us more involved in STEM, whether it be for college, career, and focusing on conclusion. But these stats are only something that we can see on paper. We all understand the impact that first has had on us and the first community. We all understand engineering is the future, tech jobs is the future, and first really helps with that. But
All right. There's a big question around like, why does first even work, right? Also, let's do a quick round, like who's brand new to this program, who's been involved for a few years. I just kind of give me like an overview real quick. Name, first name. Nolan from Graffiti, couple years. Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Awesome. Okay. Cool.
Gretchen from 6.3.
Perfect.
And I think, well, it's been longer for after all, but yeah, it's been a few years.
Cool.
Carson from Prairie Downs, like 22 years
Okay.
Georgia also from Fairgrounds.
Cool. Hi.
Hello, Andrea from Team Robotics, 4 years.
Sweet.
Same with Andrea. I'm Blaze.
Awesome. Fantastic. Okay. So you have some years of experience. Excellent. All right. So you've witnessed the impact of the program. Cool. So let's go to the next slide. So there are very specific things that make first actually unique. If anyone's seen Ratatouille, like this moment where he's throwing all this stuff in the stew and making the best soup, is kind of like what I view the best way to explain why first is so special. And so if we go to the next slide, these are really the elements that make first unique, kind of like all bundled up together again in that nice big stew pot. And so it's a mixture between the first core values applied in times of intense competition. There's your caring adult mentors who are interacting with the students and supporting them. There's learning about your career opportunities in the future. There's applying these skills to real life, and then being able to have hands-on learning opportunities, teamwork, and engage in your community. And so if we go to the next slide, all of these different elements are really the reason that first is unique, and they're embedded in the program in very interesting ways. And so this was the challenging part that Noah and I kind of went into, where it was like, how do you explain to people that the caring adult mentors is specifically a way that students would allow them to increase interest in going into a STEM career? By having mentors you interact with in STEM careers, students then naturally become interested in those potential opportunities. Because you are then exposed to these different careers you had no idea existed originally because of your mentors, that allows you, again, to double down on that interest. But there's also the concept of celebration, right? And so you come to these events, and every time you go out for a match, you have the opportunity to celebrate what your robot's doing and the hard work you put into this program. But you're also working as a team. And it's not just you working as a team with your teammates, it's you working as a team with other alliances. And so that's one of the big differences. You go to these robotics competitions and you don't see them rotating their alliances and working together on the field for competition. You see them doing 1v1 or just one-off opportunities. So the fact that when Woody Flowers built this, there was this level of teamwork embedded into the program is actually critically important for gaining all of these skills and creating some of the best workforce members in the community. So then if we move on, The other elements are the hands-on learning. So the fact that it's tangible, but it's not just tangible with like hand tools and working in a shop. I mean, it's also things like being engaged with requesting sponsor support, right? Knowing how to advocate for your team and the opportunities that you want available so that you can advocate for yourself in the future. So there's these real world elements that allow for the students to understand how they're impacting the broader world. And so the concept of like, the impact award, where it's all about what you're doing in the community and how you're giving back. It's relevant and purposeful, so it actually means something and is tangible to your future. And then the first core values are all critically embedded in that. So
we know that first works, and we kind of understand why after going through some of those key differentiators. So how are we able to support it and maximize the impact that all of these cool or these differentiators can have on the overall community, not just people that are in FRC that are in first, but also people that haven't had the opportunity to be in FRC in first, because that's really a privilege that we all get to experience those benefits, but it's something that more teams need to be able to experience. So here are what some FRC teams need.
So in terms of when you try to build an equation to figure out like what do you need to have an FRC team, one of the first things that comes to mind is people. But it's not just people, it's specific people. And so you do need students. So I have some students here in the room. Raise your hand if you're a current student on a team. Cool. Raise your hand if you're an alumni from a team, but you graduated. Cool. Raise your hand if you're a current mentor. Awesome. All right. So generally, in terms of FRC teams, I like to double down on this 2.4% of local high school population, because that's the percentage I'm trying to engage on your team. So if you think about how many kids are in your high school, if you have 2.4% of that, fantastic. If you're Ferrodermis and somehow you have more than 2.4% of that, great work. Also make sure that it happens annually. But with that in mind, you also need these adult coaches and mentors. And so when I originally came to town, one of the people I actually talked to was Laura from Ferrodermis. And I was like, where do I find more of you? She's like, there's this conference, the Slate conference. And I was like, oh, really? Tell me more. And that's how we ended up going to this educator conference to try and find the people like Laura and like Tim from Red Raider Robotics who are passionate about providing these opportunities to students. And so generally having 4 students to 1 adult is a really nice number. Doesn't always work that way, but let's try to target that because that helps have a sustainable team. And then you also need adult champions. So these are not mentors, but these are people where they're like helping to advocate and make things happen for the team, or at least they're not making your life harder. So like Beast, we'll get to that in a second, but I'm just as a call out, I have an example for you later. All right.
Additionally, FRC teams need space, and this also comes in a variety of different forms. It's your physical spaces, whether that's a classroom, a workshop, or really anywhere that your team can meet and focus during the build season and the off season, just getting together and being able to do the work. Additionally, you need storage, whether that's something that you put your materials in during the off season when you don't need them, or when you're during the build season and it's between meetings. Having those resources that you can access really easily so that it's not running back and forth to get those stuff for your robot. That's all really important. And then, as I mentioned, the workshop. And then additionally, there are the virtual spaces. That's your communication channels, Slack, and anything that you use to communicate with your team online. And then social media, Instagram, TikTok, anything that helps your team develop an image to the community, whether that's the first community, your local community, really getting your image out there. And then additionally, a website to have all of your resources and information about previous seasons.
Who has a consistent classroom that they're able to work in? Can you raise your hand? Okay, so no one has to literally unpack a closet and then repack a closet at the end of the night? Okay, so I'm the only mentor in the room with experience with that? Deal. Okay, all right. Next. I've done it with 2 teams. And donations. And so as an example, there's multiple different types of donations as well. Obviously, there's in-kind like materials, equipment, even transportation support from your school. But then there's also those financial donations. And so looking at sponsors, family donations, fundraisers in the community, and even time. And I feel like teams don't always remember that the time mentors put into the program could like lead to potentially like corporate volunteer hours. So there could be a financial tie-in, or at minimum, because they are going to an event with the team, that is part of their corporate volunteerism strategy, and it doesn't count against their vacation hours. And so that's a big deal as well, because then these mentors, they're able to go and do these really cool and awesome things supporting the students without it diving into their family time, and machine time as well. So that was a fun one.
And then also, culture.
Next.
I like to define culture in a couple different ways. There's a lot of different ways that you can define culture because it's a little more nuanced, but I like to firstly define it with team identity, which is a characteristic or a set of characteristics that makes your team unique and connects all of the students on the team at a personal level, because there's different levels of culture within either first. There's your team, your district, region, state, and even the world FRC culture. And I think when you're kind of creating those unique characteristics, you get your team to become you get your team to be connected in a way that is different. And because you're dealing with the people on your team for an entire season, an entire off season, for an entire 4 years, it's really important to develop those characteristics quickly. And additionally, there's the first philosophies versus professionalism and cooperation. When Woody Flowers and Team Cayman came up with the philosophies, that was so that the first teams can really work together and develop a culture of both being competitive and wanting to compete at the highest level while also being able to support one another. And then finally, there's the core values: discovery, innovation, impact, teamwork, inclusion, and fun. And those all help with building a environment so that students can grow their learning in a safe and healthy way.
Yep. And so now you're like, okay, so what, right? Like, why is this important? Why are we talking about this as it relates to educational opportunities for teams, etc.? Next. All right. Well, this is where it's not just, me and Noah up here talking to you. Like, this is where you're going to contribute to this presentation, which I suppose I should have mentioned, but whatever, it's fine. And so Noah very nicely put together some of these questions so that we could have a conversation around how do you double down on these things, right? Like, how do you find these things for your team to make sure that your team is healthy, and the students who are coming in, so you guys are seniors this year, right? So the freshmen coming in behind you, how are you going to make sure that your team is in good shape so that the team is sustainable? And so who are some of the caring adults that helped your robotics team? Just shout out, yes.
She buys stuff, like she bought, like we have like some like fun like give out things in here, and she buys like supplies for that, so it's not just the team. And she also like gives us some food, like she is like the main supplier of like our snacks and like our drinks and stuff like that. So
cool. Other caring adults, yes.
We have all of our parents always supply lunches for parents days that we're working.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of have that too, where we have like a sign up genius. Yeah, that's what we do. Yeah.
Cool. What strategies do you use to find these people? Do you have strategies you use?
We have kind of like a booster club that we push any and every way that we can.
Mm-hmm.
It's small right now just because of a lot of students just graduating and those parents no longer having a connection with the school and the team for it. But as like siblings and other things come in, we're seeing a lot of returning champions.
Gotcha.
In that sense.
Yep. No, it's a good one. You get someone who has 3 children, you get them for 12 years. Excellent. And so I think this is really one of the areas where it's like strategies your team uses to find these adults that will keep supporting the program. And so this could be like unique things, like you always go out and demo at the Rotary Club. And that's how you find some of the, retired engineers in the area that will come back and help support the team. That is a tangible strategy that if you do that, you should make a resource about it. All right, next slide.
And then just as some resources for all of you that relate to the caring adults, there's the first official educational resource page that has a bunch of information to get new mentors and volunteers understanding what first is and how to contribute massively. And then Additionally, there's a STEM for everyone training. This is a little more specific. It's actually train these mentors, train these volunteers to understand how FIRST contributes to STEM and maximize that. And then finally, the volunteer recruitment strategies tip sheet has a nice little PDF on how to find volunteers, how to kind of encourage volunteers to participate, and then the value of having that participation with them.
And our understanding is that MROC does a great job at making sure these resources are available. So you don't necessarily need to like try and grab the QR codes now, but they are, we wanted to document them here for that sake.
Additionally, the QR codes might close within a week just because I
Oh,
was
okay.
using the software and I was using it in the shop. But the links are provided under all the QR codes. So if you want to check out the links, they're under.
All right. And so let's talk about celebration. Like, how does your team celebrate accomplishments at the end of the season? Ice cream social? Yeah.
We have a banquet and we give out custom awards for people to recognize the special achievements.
Okay. And did you do this when you were a senior in high school or like as a student? Do you still have those awards on your wall?
Yep, we've been doing that since.
Ha. Cool. Great example. Maybe we can document that, make a resource for it. Okay. Other ways you celebrate.
We also have a banquet.
Excellent. What did you just put up this week in the shop on Thursday? The 4 framed.
Photo frames for each season, and have like a post our team photo up in the shop to like sort of commemorate our season participation.
Like they should actually sell the frames. I'm not even kidding. But I mean, it was really cool. And so these are some ways that you celebrate these accomplishments. But what do you guys do? What would you want to do? And can you, if you want to steal some of these ideas from like the other teams, how do you do that? Great question. We're going to get into that towards the end. Okay. Yes.
We have banners. We do for all the seniors. They take a picture and we make a custom banner with their name on it and stuff. And at the end of the year, everyone signs it and they get to take pictures.
Oh, that is cool. I like that. All right, next. All right.
Some resources in regards to celebration. Firstly, the FIRST official Kahoot is a nice resource. The actual account has a bunch of different Kahoots ranging from fun topics to getting underclassmen more involved with like what FIRST does, kind of what to expect. And then to move on from that, the event experience is also really good for underclassmen because it helps kind of help them understand what the regional events, the district events are going to look like. So coming into like being an underclassman, you don't really know what competition is going to look like, and the event experience has a lot of resources on what that's going to be. And then finally, the FIRST sign-in day is a nice little article, fun little read about sign-in day, kind of similar to athletics. High school athletes have their information about what college they're going to go to, what they're going to do. FIRST sign-in day is another fun little event that helps get the robotics team kind of showing up where people might go to college, where they're going to work, kind of celebrate the commitment that they've had to robotics over their time in high school.
Excellent. Next. So then hands-on learning. How does your team ensure that students are able to use tools in the shop? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. We do like we have like a sheet that we print out for kids interested in like the manufacturing or like electrical side, and we get them all like certified basically like that. Okay, you can use a power tool, but I can't because I'm not certified. So just knowing, and it's like we have it posted somewhere. I don't know. It's somewhere. It's posted, but
Ooh, nice. So you should do like you could if you write up a blog post. I will post on the FIRST Wisconsin website, but by creating and sharing your processes for these things, it makes life easier for everyone else that comes after you. And so I'm glad you doubled down on that because like I was like, I don't know if people will understand that for you to even open the door for hands-on learning, you have to have a process for training people on how to safely use tools. How many people in this room didn't use a hand tool until they got into the FRC, program, right? Okay, a bunch of people raising their hands. Yep. So safety is actually really important, and having a process for this to double down on these hands-on learning opportunities is really important. And so if that is one example of something that you can take away from this, it's there.
Some quick resources on hands-on learning. The Autodesk models and softwares have a bunch of different links and simulators that can help kind of CAD programming, work during the build season, and brainstorm about what to do for the next season. Additionally, Robotics has a lot of articles and information made by FIRST alumni. So you can get a lot of specific resources about really anything ranging from mechanical to electrical to really any of the sub-team information. The Penfield Robotics Safety is a quick article about tool safety and injury safety, just kind of helping those underclassmen and first-year mechanical students get more aware of what the tools they're going to use. And then additionally, the WPI library is a great resource, has a bunch of different links to stuff that programming uses, a bunch of links to different softwares and resources, even the specific products that mechanical or electrical might use during the season is all provided on there. And then finally, the virtual kit. During the build season, the physical kit that has all your game pieces and materials that you're going to be using throughout the season are provided, but then the virtual kit also has vouchers and different things that you can purchase and kind of download that's not going to be provided in that box.
Cool. All right. So then there's the element of teamwork focused on a challenge. And so I think we're going to speed through a couple of these. Yep. But like, how does your team encourage teamwork or team bonding events to take place, right? Does your team try to prioritize going to a travel event first so that everyone is like, you know, locked in a small amount of space on a bus together and like you're forming bonds that way, or you're staying overnight somewhere and you're forming bonds there and then you're going through this competition? I mean, first literally made a structure where like there is these bonding elements. So then if we go to the past resources, and if anyone would like to say hi to Miss Amelia, she's in the background there. Okay, we'll go to the next slide.
Just some quick resources.
Oh, yeah. Oops, sorry.
Some quick resources on teamwork. Chief Delphi, very popular forum. I hope most of you understand that Chief Delphi is really valuable, but for those who don't, it's a lot of resources. And if you do it it's a little daunting at first, but if you practice navigating it over time, it becomes pretty simple. RoboLancer's a great team resource that has a bunch of information about just a bunch of the stuff that they do for Impact and their business team. Really helpful for those first-year business students that want to have a place to start off of. And then Wisconsin First Blogs has a bunch of different information about stuff going on in first if you're just trying to stay caught up with what's going on right now.
Next. All right. We're going to just keep going because we really want to double down on the end here. So go. Next one. Next one. Haha. Okay. All right. Hi. Congratulations. You are privileged students to have access to this program. And I don't know if you realize how privileged you are, because I didn't realize that until after I was out of the program. But there are students all over the state that do not have access to something like FIRST or to those caring adult mentors, to those career opportunities. And that's not fair. And so in order for FIRST to evolve,
it's the responsibility of the students to share information. All of you have unique things that your team does, kind of thinking about that team identity. Everyone has something unique to offer, and when you think about, if you think about what you can share, you're really helping everybody have bits and pieces that they can take, whether they're starting a team or they're a struggling team and they're trying to find resources. It really helps them develop what they're going to need.
Yep.
And grow their team as a future.
And any of the initiatives we talked about today, like one of the reasons we drew those out and like had you explain them is because those are the things we would like you to document. How you can document that, I don't necessarily care. But again, I am willing to put anything that you provide to me in a blog post on the First Wisconsin website and list it under resources. And that's an example of where we can put that. Because for us to make this program more accessible, we need your team to be healthy. We need you to have best practices and processes that make sure you are sustainable. And then if you are sustainable, then we need your help to try and get more access to more students for FIRST. Last slide. Oh, yeah. So make them. So you can make your own educational materials. That's the point of the presentation. All right. And if you have any final questions, next slide. We did it.